Welcome to the Founders Lounge, where business meets bullshit and everything in between. All right, well, this is the kind of the third episode of this, kind of three-part marketing series we got. So I'm interested to know what you got.
Yeah, man. No, so we were talking. We've done some good stuff on, ways to figure out what you might want to do in 2025 second half and what's going on in terms of just staying out in front and keeping your brand relevant, not just in 25 but forever. And now it's like the big question is, okay, well, how do you do all of this stuff in a down economy? And this isn't just a today question. Let's be real. If you're in business for any duration of time, you're going to hit a down economy. I can't tell you how many we've had since 08.
Well, you're going to hit a downtrend even if the economy's great.
Right. Yeah. So, and that's what so I've seen you and I've seen other brands do it very well. And there's something to be learned there. So I just wanted to get in your brain a little bit and talk about some of the things we've seen from a brand and marketing perspective of what other brands have done to kind of navigate uncertainty when it's hard to hire or hard to keep, but, it's higher price of goods, less folks spending money, and being more inundated with offers than ever before. That is a perfect shit sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get around it? Go.
I'm just going to be
marketing wise.
I'll be transparent because it's the one thing that I can speak on with a ton of credibility, and I always circle back to clean eats. And I'm fine, like, being open and honest and sharing some of the struggles that we go through when we're talking about things like this.
Yeah.
And right now, in the restaurant industry, I would very much consider this what you just called a downturn economy. And so one of the things that we're struggling with right now, and I say struggle meaning it's more difficult than it was before.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, I'm not beating up our owners by any means. I'm just saying it's harder to do right now. You have got to prioritize customer retention. If you don't do that and you start losing customers in this downturn economy, you're dead. So focus on customer service, customer retention. Try not to lose the existing customers that you've got. Most people think, well, I've got to go out and get new customers. That's not always the case. You don't have to spend a ton of money, create these astronomical budgets to go out and get necessarily new people to the door. You don't ever want to stop doing that. I'm not saying don't do that. But I think all of the focus has a tendency to shift to that. And then nobody prioritizes the customer retention that they already have.
I love it, man. And it's something that we've said too at our agency is if you think brand loyalty is a gimmick, you won't be in business in 3 years. The reality is the instinct is to build. And I know you've probably seen it. I've seen it. In our early days, it was like, go get customers, go get clients. We call them clients because different industry. But, well, guess what? If you get the clients and they're not loyal to you because they're being satisfied, it's a diminishing return. You're going to run out of places to go. And in a downturn economy, your options are limited. You just watched at least 50% of available, consumers say, you know what, we're tightening up the belt straps here. We can't.
You literally just touched on one that we have just done. And so it's fresh in my brain.
Yeah, go for it.
And you said loyalty program.
So
we literally just switched our app. Not to go down a wormhole, but we've done a dramatic shift and change in our entire, I'll call it a tech integration, tech stack. We've switched POS systems. We've implemented other software systems on the tech side, on the back end of the restaurants. But the big lift that we just went through was this new loyalty app that we just did. It is a monstrosity to do. It is very, very difficult, especially when you're trying to convert millions of people from one system that they're used to over to another one. Even if it's better, it's not easy to do. You're going to have bugs. You're going to have problems. We're still kind of ironing some of those out.
Yeah.
But the customer experience at the end of the day is going to be much better. And that was when we started looking at ways to get around, 2024 for the restaurant industry was absolutely horrible. Everybody in that industry knows it. This year is not off to too much of a better start. It's starting to get better.
Yeah.
We're slowly starting to see it better. So when we looked at it, we're like, okay, the app that we had was kind of a, short term means to an end.
Yeah,
I won't
absolutely.
get into why it's boring. We knew that we were going to this new app. We just had to time it contract wise. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
Contract comes around, we're ready to implement this thing. It is awesome. It's amazing. The app is absolutely incredible. But just like anything else, man, we had, you know, techie problems. And a model that's so complicated like ours, it makes it 3 times more difficult
I imagine, yeah.
because we're in that, we just talked about subscription based on a previous show. We don't have a subscription base, but a lot of our customers have set up like online profiles when they go in each week to order the meals to make it easier. It's more of a easier checkout process, if you will. Well, a lot of our customers, it's human nature. Sometimes they'll use their email, they'll use their husband's email. They have multiple emails and stuff like that. And so, not to get techie and sound like a nerd, but when you're trying to migrate all that information over, big problems come up. Big problems come up. Point being, at the end of the day, that's okay as long as you fix it fast and focus on customer retention. And that's what we're currently doing. We're trying to get these, hundreds of thousands of people on a better customer experience.
And I remember the meetings years ago. Don's been a big advocate for apps. We need an app. Like, I just remember the meetings leading up to that, this point where you really do have a stellar piece of connectivity to the loyal. But the reason of it was, if I recall, and correct me if I'm wrong, was we are a lifestyle business. And that's not unique to Clean Eats. There are a lot of businesses that say that we are a lifestyle business. So how do we become more integrated into their lifestyle? It was for that simplicity, that connection. And that's how you feed your loyal fans, man. You make it, you're relevant in their day. An app is one. How about also empathy? You guys are really good at this. I've seen other in a downturn economy, understanding and hearing and even expressing, like, we get it. This you have tighter choices right now, man. And
Yep.
we're honored that you're choosing us. And this is what we're going to do to make that choice easier. So just coming out in message and presentation and persona and saying, dude,
It's emphasizing value.
yeah,
And that's the biggest thing for us is we try to tell people, hey, we know that we're not your only option, but we want to be your best option.
yeah.
We want you to trust us and knowing that you can come and buy a week's worth of meals from us and you're going to save probably 30, 40, 50% from your grocery bill. It's just emphasizing that value prop.
One of the things, and this is going back to COVID, that, and I think I'm allowed to cut this out if I'm allowed to talk about this, Jamie. I remember marketing meetings, and they were skewing a little bit more logistical. They weren't just us sitting around talking about rainbows and butterflies. It was like, what's our call to action going to be? What's the value proposition now that the world has changed overnight? And you guys,
Everybody did that.
everyone did that, right? But what you guys insisted on, and I will say it was largely Yvonne, and I credit her for this, was we are not about to increase prices now when people don't know where their next meal is going to come next week. That empathy, that's a leadership empathy, but it doesn't take a rocket scientist or whatever the hell, the brain surgeon, rocket
No, I get
scientist,
it.
to know that if you're willing to give the extra in a tough time, it'll come back. We've done the same thing where it's like we have brands that maybe it's a tough month, and there are agencies that'll just cut off and stop services. I mean, to me, I can't fathom doing it. I get this. You have to have boundaries, but there are times where you give the olive branch because of the loyalty.
Yep.
So empathy is another one.
One of the things we still struggle with, again, I'm being very open and honest, and I hope that this kind of helps some of you guys listening to this. We still struggle with price, meaning, a lot of our owners are pushing for price increases to increase profitability. And the hardest thing for us to explain to them is just because you raise your price doesn't mean it's going to travel down to the bottom line. An increase in price isn't going to equate to profitability, especially if the customer experience isn't there, if the quality of product isn't there, and I'm not saying they're not, but like there's more value, there's more variables that go into making that decision than just increasing price because I'll make more money on the money that I'm
It's
making.
paper. It's paper math. Yeah, it's
And
kind of like,
it's
well,
just not,
two more
it's
dollars.
not an
Yeah, it's two.
educated way to go about that. And Yvonne and I have always been the biggest advocate, and had to duck and dodge bullets
That's
and
why I don't want to
punches.
bring it up because I know it's a sensitive
I
subject, but
mean,
it
I
is.
don't mind talking about it, and I'm not beating up on our owners. I mean, of course,
No, no, no. I'm
they
saying
want to
just,
make more
yeah.
money, and obviously, rightfully so, we want them to. But just trying to educate our franchise partners on, hey, this is why we're not taking a price increase when every other person that we compete against market share is doing, and these are the reasons why. Most of them get it and they
Yeah, to your
understand
system's
it.
credit,
You're
you
never
got.
going to get everybody to understand that, and we deal with that a lot. But we've kind of stood firm on our kind of core values and integrity, and keeping that brand, the value proposition there for our customers, to keep that trust, to keep that customer retention. Now, we just, out of the other side of my mouth, we just did a price increase. We
Yeah.
held it off as long
I
as
mean,
we
after how
could,
many years? Yeah, I
you
mean,
know.
listen, I'm not saying there have to be boundaries. You can't. Your operating costs go up just as much as the cost of the goods people are. So that is not what I'm saying. I'm saying if there's room to try to not have a knee jerk reaction in a downturn economy, and just then that is going to be well received by the general public. Now let's get down to brass tacks on dollars. Like, okay, so we've given three things, on what you can do. Two things, excuse me. The third is I'm a big believer in budgeting and revisiting budgets, particularly when this is not, again, this isn't a Steve Bond thing. You
It's
should
not a
do it.
sexy thing, but
Yeah,
it's a
you should,
necessity.
and you should do it. And so I do think within any budget, whether it's small, medium, or large, there is room to pivot. And if you don't have that, then you better find it. And this goes back into vendors you're working with. How's your contract with them? Are you locked in for 6 months, 12 months? Employees, what are they doing? Where's their energy going? You have to, in this type of economy, revisit what you've put in place at the beginning of the year and see if there's ways to restructure it to meet the demand in the moment now. It's not easy and it kind of sucks, but after you do it, you're going to see performance efficiency, and you can even find money in that. I mean, you can find money.
I would even go
Yeah.
further and say that that's not a one size fits all.
Mm-mm.
There's not a
No.
one way to do that. The other thing I was going to mention, another tactic, we just talked about it on probably the last two shows, is brand messaging, emphasizing value, being sensitive to the customer's needs, those changes, and the empathy thing that you've mentioned a few times.
Yeah.
That's another way to do that when you're looking at, we say budget, everybody always associates dollars with budget. Not necessarily. It's more or less a playbook.
Absolutely, man.
What is my tactic going to be for this month or this week? How am I going to go and improve this and have to spend as little money as possible for the maximum return?
And metrics, to your point, attrition is money. Keeping a customer in a tough market and in a good market, it's a foundation. That's what we've talked. It's money. It doesn't have to be X new sales, but have we kept a good, solid foundational balance while we kind of navigated personas? That's the other thing you're bringing up messaging. Revisit your customer persona, because guess what? It's changed overnight. We've all changed overnight. When tough times hit, you're not the same person you were 2 months ago. You're thinking differently.
A good example that I'll use, he won't mind if I share this on the show. Yarko, if you're listening to this, I'm talking about you, buddy. We've got an owner down in Athens, Georgia. Great guy. His name's Yarko. Big dude. He's a monster.
Guy. He's a great guy.
They were struggling, right?
Yeah.
They opened up in Athens, Georgia football. They came out of the gate hot. Athens is a tough market because the only thing in Athens, Georgia, University of Georgia. So in the off season, when kids are out of school, there's nobody in Athens.
That's crazy,
It's
man.
a tiny market, right? Well, they opened up it was a family business. They had their kids in there. Their kids were phenomenal. Mm-hmm. They could run that cafe with their eyes closed. The restaurant business wasn't their long-term thing, right? Well, they got married. They both got married. They both moved away. Yarko and Diane are the owners, so they're still there, right? Sales dropped, like dropped. Yarko's freaking out. He's calling me. He's like, man, I don't know what I'm gonna do. He's like, Diane and I are in this business now. We're running it as lean as possible, which was smart. I mean, Yarko's a business guy. He's
Oh,
been
he's
self-employed.
that dude's brilliant. Yeah.
And so we just said, look, man, you're just going to have to think outside the box. You know, we gave him a playbook to follow. He was doing it. His budget for spend was very, very low. And I'm like, well, what other things can you do to where you don't have to necessarily spend money, but it gets your brand out there, it gets your face out there, you as the face of the business.
Yeah.
I don't know where the hell this guy found it. He is one of the funniest son of a
He's
bitches on
great.
social media right
Yeah.
now, and it's working.
It's that pattern disruptor of personality, man.
It's working.
Yeah.
And he comes up with the funniest damn content. Like every time I see a reel and I see Yarko's big, ugly mug on the screen, I'm like, what is this? and I got to watch it. You know what I mean? And I think that's what people are doing. They're getting used to Yarko being this funny guy that owns the food concept in Athens.
Dude, but I think that's the fourth. Maybe we're on 5. I don't know, guys. Work
Content
with what you
marketing.
got. Well, not just content, but work with what you got a little bit, man. Content's the distribution of, the vehicle's the vehicle, but the content can change with what you've got. Yarko is willing, in his case, to take a leap of faith and just put himself out there, and it's work. You're right, man. The dude's hilarious. In person, he always is a good, he's personality when he walks into a room. Why wouldn't you work with that?
Sure.
And be willing, because I think also it's going to be more accepted when
he doubled down on his strengths.
He totally doubled. Yeah, absolutely, brother. And it's going to be more accepted in a moment where everyone gets it. Like, hey, man, I got to give the guy credit. He's doing what he's got to do to keep us loyal. There's no surefire. I've had brands come to us every downturn of market, every downturn economy, in panic mode. Like, oh my goodness, we lost 30% in the last 6 months, and I wish I could say, well, I've got a magic pill. I don't. There are a handful of things that you can focus on to stop the bleeding and then start the recovery a bit. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, but it's not an overnight.
There's another one that we haven't mentioned that I think is pretty important, and it's being agile and knowing when and how to pivot if something's not working.
Yeah, don't overreact, but don't wait too long. Yeah, right. That's great, man.
Because we've had to do that a lot.
Yeah.
You know, we mentioned OTT on the last thing. We tried that, didn't work. You and I can sit here and go down a wormhole on whether or not we gave it enough time or whatever. But, so we've done different things over the years and pivoted and changed approaches here and there. And what I'm really proud of, I like sharing our owners' stories, because when they do something creative, I'm like, damn, okay, that I love it. A lot of our owners have started to figure out how to do that too, in their own little way, in their own little market. And it's phenomenal to see. It's just great to see.
With local marketing that's a whole nother episode, dude.
Another story I'll tell you real quick. I don't want to take up our time telling stories, but Mickey in Chicago. Mickey's another bigger guy. He's an older guy. Him and his wife are a little older than most of our owners, right? Sweet people. I love them to death, man. Yeah. Mickey's a big cycler. Before he got into Clean Eats, he probably hated social media. And it showed when he was trying to do him talking to his customers on video. That message looked forced. Really weird.
It was like a hostage tape.
But now he's almost kind of grown into it, where it's kind of his thing. It's Mickey. You know what I mean? So when you see his videos, you're like, Mickey's a weird guy, but I get it. And it resonates. Like,
that's the local brand.
His
persona.
Customers love him to death. He's got his own little way of doing it, similar to Yarko, and you've got to figure that out. You've got to figure out how to do that.
Yeah, and you're all those examples are right on, because I believe in personifying brands regardless of the economy. I think that the more digital we get, the more humans want to interact with real humans. So what Mickey's doing, what Yarko's doing, personifies the Clean Eats brand for that local market. But if you're not into that, fine. But if there ever is a time to do it, it's when people are looking for other human interaction. And it's right now, because no one, and this is not going to go away. It's going to happen another 2 years. There are times in our lives where people just don't know what the hell is going to happen, man. And they don't want to be automated. They don't want to deal with the digital reply. They want to know who they're working with.
I agree.
whether they're buying a product or a service. So really good stuff. Do you have anything else you want to throw in? I mean, we could probably go for
No, I think we
hours.
covered the big 3 or 4, big bullet point takeaways that I think people will get out of this.
Yeah, man. Empathy, reevaluate where your current budget's at, get creative, think of ways to utilize your people, your budget. Work with what you got, man. Work with what you got on content side. Bring out a little bit of persona that might be a pattern disruptor that people aren't used to seeing from you, but get it. And then, kind of the first that we started with and really important is look at it through the lens of this is temporary, right?
Sure.
Overreaction could be worse than preparation. Yeah, there's no good metaphor for it, but this is temporary. So good stuff, man.
All right, guys. Till next time.